The grand ballroom of the Civic Center was an architectural marvel, a tribute to classical grandeur with towering chandeliers that threw cascades of light across the marble floors. It was abuzz with life as notable figures from around the city mingled, their conversations blending into an indistinct hum. At the heart of the evening's affair stood Kai Trump, an emerging humanitarian and philanthropist whose recent initiatives in veteran care had captured national attention. Graceful and poised, she moved through the crowd with an air of effortless charm, her words leaving an impression on everyone she met. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. Kai wasn't just a figurehead for her causes. Beneath her calm exterior was a woman driven by genuine empathy, a trait instilled in her from a young age. Tonight, she spoke fervently about her latest project, a rehabilitation center for wounded and homeless veterans aiming to give back to those who had sacrificed so much. The crowd gathered closer as she took the stage to address them, her voice resonating with conviction. "We owe a debt to our veterans that can never truly be repaid," she said, her words heartfelt. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. As her speech drew to a close, polite applause erupted throughout the room, a testament to the passion she had evoked. But as Kai stepped down from the stage, an unexpected commotion drew her attention. A man, dressed in a weathered jacket that spoke of years spent braving the elements, stumbled into view. His face, lined with age and hardship, looked pale, and his movements were unsteady. Before anyone could react, he collapsed to the floor with a resounding thud. Gasps rippled through the crowd as people instinctively moved back. For a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath, suspended in collective shock, but not Kai. Without hesitation, she broke through the stunned throng, kneeling beside the fallen man. "Call an ambulance!" she called over her shoulder, her voice steady despite the tension. Her hands gently cradled his head, her eyes scanning his face for signs of consciousness. She noted the dog tags around his neck, confirming what his weary demeanor had already suggested. This man was a veteran. The stranger's breathing was shallow, his eyes fluttering open briefly before closing again. Kai's heart clenched as she imagined the years of neglect and hardship he might have endured. "Stay with me," she urged softly, her voice filled with determination. "Help is on the way!" A moment later, someone pressed a first aid kit into her hands. She worked with swift efficiency, her hands steady as she checked his pulse and elevated his legs. Her actions betrayed the confidence of someone who had been trained for emergencies. The crowd, initially struck with fear, now watched in awe, their admiration growing as they witnessed her composure and care. Minutes later, the paramedics arrived, their gurney slicing through the sea of onlookers. Kai stood back to give them space, but her concern didn't waver. She watched as they loaded the man into the ambulance, her mind already racing with questions about his story and how he had come to this point. As the ambulance doors closed, she made a decision. Turning to one of her assistants, she said firmly, "Find out everything you can about him. I want to know his name, his history, and how we can help." The event continued, but Kai's mind lingered on the incident. When the evening ended, she went straight to the hospital where the veteran had been taken. As she entered his room, she was greeted by the sight of a frail, yet dignified man. His name, she learned, was Daniel Blake, a retired Army sergeant who had fallen on hard times after returning from his last deployment. Decades of service had left him with physical scars and emotional wounds, but it was society's neglect that had truly broken him. Kai sat beside him, her expression soft but resolute. "Mr. Blake," she began, her tone gentle, "I'm Kai Trump. I was there when you collapsed tonight." Daniel's gaze flickered to her, his pride and embarrassment warring in his tired eyes. "You didn't have to come?" he murmured, his voice raspy. Kai shook her head. "Yes, I did, and I want you to know that you're not alone in this. Tell me, Sergeant Blake, how can I help?" Over the next hour, Daniel opened up, his words halting but sincere. He spoke of the battles he had fought, both on the field and within himself. He described the loss of his family, the jobs he couldn't keep, and the nights spent on park benches when he had nowhere else to go. His vulnerability was raw, and Kai listened intently, her heart breaking with each revelation. By the time he finished, Kai had made up her mind. "Sergeant Blake, you deserve more than this. You deserve dignity, respect, and support, and I'm going to make sure you get it." True to her word, Kai took swift action. Within days, Daniel was transferred to one of her organization's facilities where he received comprehensive medical care and counseling. She personally oversaw his progress, visiting him regularly and ensuring he felt valued and respected. But Kai didn't stop there. She used Daniel's story as a catalyst to expand her initiatives, rallying support for policies that would provide long-term assistance to veterans in need. Her actions resonated far beyond her immediate circle. News of her compassion spread, and soon the story of the veteran who had collapsed at her feet became a national conversation. But it wasn't the publicity that mattered to Kai. For her, the real victory lay in the small moments. Seeing Daniel smile for the first time in years, watching him regain his strength and confidence, and knowing that she had made a difference. Months later, at the opening ceremony of the new rehabilitation center, Daniel stood proudly beside Kai, his transformation a testament to the power of compassion and determination. As he addressed the crowd, his voice was steady and filled with gratitude. "I was a man forgotten by the world," he said, "but this incredible woman reminded me of my worth. She didn't just save my life that night, she gave me a reason to live." The audience erupted in applause, moved by his words and the undeniable impact of Kai's work. But as she stood there, accepting their accolades, her thoughts remained humble. For Kai Trump, the true measure of success wasn't in awards or recognition. It was in the lives she touched, the hope she restored, and the belief that every act of kindness, no matter how small, could change the world. The months that followed Daniel Blake's transformation were a whirlwind of change, not just for him, but for countless others who found themselves inspired by Kai Trump's relentless dedication to veterans' causes. What had started as a singular, poignant incident was now the spark for a nationwide movement. Kai, deeply moved by her encounter with Daniel, realized that his story was far from unique. Veterans across the country faced similar hardships, slipping through the cracks of a system that promised them care and recognition. Determined to address the root of the problem, Kai launched a series of initiatives aimed at overhauling the way veterans were reintegrated into society. She began by assembling a team of experts, including doctors, therapists, social workers, and policymakers. This diverse group represented a shared goal: to provide holistic care for veterans. They met weekly in her office, a sunlit space filled with mementos from Kai's humanitarian work around the world. Maps, photographs, and letters of thanks from those she had helped served as constant reminders of her mission. The team brainstormed tirelessly, crafting a multi-pronged approach that combined immediate relief with long-term solutions. The cornerstone of their plan was the Veterans Reclamation Project VRP, an ambitious initiative designed to provide housing, job training, mental health services, and community support under one roof. Kai's vision was bold but rooted in practicality. She understood that rebuilding lives required more than temporary fixes. It demanded systemic change. The VRP centers were designed to be self-sustaining, with facilities that offered vocational training in fields like technology, green energy, and healthcare. Veterans would not only receive training but also contribute to the operation of the centers, fostering a sense of purpose and community. Funding such an ambitious project required ingenuity. Kai tapped into her extensive network of philanthropists, corporate leaders, and government officials, persuading them to invest in the future of those who had served their country. Her speeches were impassioned, her proposals meticulously detailed. The result was unprecedented. Millions of dollars in donations and grants poured in, making the VRP a reality. The center opened in a repurposed industrial building on the outskirts of Chicago. Its grand opening drew widespread attention, with journalists, local officials, and veterans advocates flocking to see the culmination of Kai's vision. The center was a marvel of innovation, blending sleek modern architecture with inviting spaces that radiated warmth. Dormitories were designed to feel like home, not institutions. Communal kitchens, libraries, and recreational areas encouraged camaraderie among residents. Daniel Blake, now a vocal advocate for veterans' rights, was among the first to speak at the opening ceremony. His words carried the weight of lived experience. "This isn't just a building," he said, addressing the crowd. "It's hope! It's a second chance for people like me who thought they'd been forgotten." Kai stood beside him, her expression calm but resolute. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice carrying a quiet determination. "Our veterans deserve more than gratitude. They deserve action." The success of the Chicago Center sparked a domino effect. Other cities, inspired by the model, reached out to Kai's team for guidance in establishing their own facilities. The VRP quickly evolved into a national network, each center tailored to the unique needs of its community. In San Diego, for example, the focus was on assisting veterans with disabilities, while the Seattle Center emphasized mental health and addiction recovery. Kai's involvement went far beyond administrative oversight. She visited each center personally, engaging with residents and staff, listening to their stories and suggestions. Her empathy and hands-on approach earned her the respect of those she served, who saw her not as a distant figurehead but as a genuine ally. Her efforts didn't stop at the centers. Recognizing that policy change was essential for lasting impact, Kai lobbied tirelessly for legislation that would improve veterans' access to healthcare, housing, and education. She testified before Congress, her speeches a potent mix of hard facts and heartfelt appeals. Lawmakers, moved by her passion and armed with the data she provided, passed several key bills that expanded benefits for veterans and streamlined bureaucratic processes. As the years went by, Kai's work transformed not just the lives of individual veterans, but also the cultural narrative surrounding their contributions. Media outlets began to focus more on their resilience and potential, rather than portraying them solely as victims of circumstance. Schools incorporated lessons about veteran sacrifices into their curricula, fostering a new generation of citizens who understood the importance of giving back. Meanwhile, Kai's personal life remained intertwined with her mission. She often spoke of how her upbringing had instilled in her a sense of responsibility to others. Her grandfather, a World War II veteran, had been a profound influence on her. She would recount his stories of camaraderie, sacrifice, and the challenges of readjusting to civilian life. "He always told me that serving others is the highest form of duty," she once said in an interview. "That's what drives me every day." Kai's relentless pace occasionally drew concern from those closest to her. Friends worried that she was taking on too much, that her commitment to her cause might come at the expense of her own well-being. But Kai, ever resolute, dismissed such concerns with a smile. "I'm doing what I love," she would say. "There's no greater reward than seeing lives transformed." Her impact was undeniable. By the 5th anniversary of the VRP's founding, thousands of veterans had passed through its doors, each with a story of renewal and resilience. Some had become business owners, others community leaders. Many had simply found peace, a gift that Kai valued as much as any tangible success. One such story was that of Maria Lopez, a former Marine who had struggled with post-traumatic stress disorder and homelessness after her discharge. Maria had been among the first residents of the Chicago Center, arriving there with little more than a backpack and a guarded demeanor. Over time, with the support of counselors and peers, she rediscovered her strength. She went on to become the center's program director, dedicating herself to helping others find the same hope she had been given. At a gala celebrating the VRP's anniversary, Maria took the stage to share her journey. "Kai Trump didn't just create a program," she said, her voice steady but emotional. "She created a family, and families don't let each other fall." Kai, sitting in the audience, was visibly moved. For her, moments like these were the true measure of success, not the accolades or the headlines, but the ripple effects of compassion and empowerment. Her journey, however, was not without challenges. As the VRP expanded, it faced criticism from skeptics who questioned its scalability and sustainability. Kai met these challenges head-on, inviting transparency and accountability at every turn. She welcomed independent audits, shared detailed progress reports, and maintained an open dialogue with stakeholders. Her unwavering integrity won over even her harshest critics, solidifying the VRP's reputation as a model for effective social change. The most significant challenge came in the form of a natural disaster. A hurricane devastated one of the VRP centers in New Orleans, displacing its residents and causing millions of dollars in damage. The tragedy could have been a crippling blow to the organization, but Kai's leadership turned it into a rallying point. She mobilized resources, coordinated relief efforts, and personally visited the site to reassure residents that they would not be abandoned. Within months, the center was rebuilt, stronger and better equipped than before. By the 10th anniversary of the VRP, Kai Trump had become a symbol of hope and resilience. Her work had not only improved the lives of veterans, but also inspired countless others to take up causes close to their hearts. The centers had expanded internationally, with facilities in countries like Canada and the UK adapting the model to support their own veterans. Despite her growing influence, Kai remained humble, often deflecting praise to her team and the veterans themselves. "I'm just one person," she would say. "The real heroes are the ones who walk through our doors and choose to rebuild their lives." Her legacy was cemented when she published a memoir, For Those Who Serve, chronicling her journey and the stories of the veterans she had met along the way. The book became a bestseller, its proceeds channeled back into the VRP. Readers around the world were moved by her authenticity and the profound message at the heart of her work, that every life, no matter how broken, has the potential to heal. In the chapter of her memoir, Kai reflected on the night Daniel Blake had collapsed in front of her, the moment that had changed everything. "Sometimes," she wrote, "we're called to act in ways we can't foresee. That night I didn't see a stranger. I saw a fellow human being in need, and in helping him, I found my purpose." Years later, as she stood at the dedication of a new center in Washington, D.C., Kai looked out at the crowd, her heart full of gratitude. Among them were veterans who had once been on the brink of despair, now thriving and giving back to their communities. As they applauded, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Her journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but it had also been a testament to the power of compassion, perseverance, and the belief that every act of kindness could ripple outward in ways she could never have imagined. Kai Trump's life had always been about answering calls for action, but as her work expanded globally, she began to encounter challenges and triumphs that required her to think in ways she never imagined. The Veterans Reclamation Project VRP had grown beyond even her original vision, its influence touching not just individual lives, but entire communities. Yet for Kai, the deeper she delved into her work, the more she discovered untold stories, hidden struggles, and vast opportunities to create meaningful change. One of these stories began in a small town in West Virginia, where the closure of a coal mine had devastated the local economy. Among those left behind were many veterans who had returned home to find jobs scarce and opportunities limited. The VRP team identified this community as a critical area for intervention, and Kai herself traveled there to meet with local leaders and residents. She found a town with its spirit intact but its resources depleted. Veterans like Hank Carr, a former Navy engineer, shared their struggles openly with her. Hank had returned from service with the hope of using his skills to support his family, but the decline of the coal industry had left him jobless and discouraged. "This town used to hum with life," Hank told Kai as they stood near the abandoned mine. "Now it's just memories and empty streets." Kai listened carefully, her mind already racing with possibilities. That evening, she held a community meeting in the local high school gymnasium, where hundreds of residents turned out to hear what she had to say. Her message was clear and powerful. "You are not forgotten, and this town is not finished. Together, we can rebuild." The VRP introduced a new model in West Virginia, focusing on economic revitalization through green technology. The program transformed the abandoned mine into a training facility for renewable energy, teaching veterans and locals alike how to install and maintain solar panels, wind turbines, and geothermal systems. The initiative not only provided jobs, but also brought sustainable energy to a region that had long relied on coal. The transformation was nothing short of miraculous. Within 2 years, the town became a hub of innovation, with veterans leading the charge in installing solar grids and designing wind farms. Hank, once skeptical of his future, became a project manager, overseeing teams of veterans who worked to power their community in ways they never thought possible. For Kai, stories like Hank's reaffirmed her belief in the resilience of veterans and the communities they served. She began to see the VRP as more than a support network. It was a catalyst for change, empowering veterans to lead in areas far beyond the battlefield. As the project expanded to other economically distressed areas, Kai's name became synonymous with ingenuity and hope. Her efforts in West Virginia also underscored the importance of collaboration. Kai's team partnered with environmental organizations, tech companies, and local governments, creating a coalition that combined expertise and resources to maximize impact. The approach was so successful that it became a blueprint for similar initiatives across the United States. But as her reach grew, so did the challenges. In one particularly harrowing instance, Kai and her team faced resistance in a rural community in Montana, where distrust of outsiders ran deep. Veterans in the area had grown disillusioned with promises of help that never materialized, and some viewed Kai's arrival with skepticism. Determined to earn their trust, Kai spent weeks in Montana, living among the community and participating in their daily lives. She attended town meetings, helped with local events, and listened without judgment to their grievances. Slowly but surely, the walls began to come down. Her persistence paid off when a retired Army medic named Clara James stood up during a meeting and said, "I don't know about the rest of you, but I believe her. Let's give her a chance." The Montana Initiative eventually became one of the VRP's most successful projects, focusing on agricultural entrepreneurship. Veterans learned to manage sustainable farms, grow organic produce, and even market their goods to local and regional markets. Clara, who had struggled with PTSD for years, found solace in tending to the land and helping others do the same. Kai's work also took her overseas, where she adapted the VRP model to address the needs of veterans in different cultural contexts. In the United Kingdom, for example, she collaborated with local organizations to establish centers for British veterans who face challenges similar to their American counterparts. In Australia, she worked with indigenous communities to integrate traditional practices into the rehabilitation process, creating a unique program that blended modern therapy with ancient wisdom. Her travels brought her into contact with countless individuals whose resilience inspired her. In Canada, she met a Métis veteran named Jacques, who had struggled with addiction after leaving the military. Through the VRP's programs, Jacques discovered a passion for woodworking, eventually opening his own workshop where he taught other veterans the craft. In New Zealand, she encountered Moana, a Maori woman who had served in the armed forces and returned home to find herself alienated from both her culture and her community. Kai's team helped Moana reconnect with her roots, and she became a leader in a program that combined cultural education with mental health support. Despite the successes, Kai never lost sight of the work that still needed to be done. She was acutely aware of the veterans who had yet to be reached, the systemic issues that still posed barriers, and the stigma that continued to surround mental health. To address these challenges, she launched a global awareness campaign called Invisible No More, which aimed to shine a light on the struggles faced by veterans and advocate for greater understanding and support. The campaign featured powerful stories of veterans from around the world, told through documentaries, social media, and live events. It encouraged people to see veterans not as broken individuals, but as extraordinary people with unique skills and experiences to offer. The campaign's tagline, "They served us, now it's our turn to serve them," resonated deeply, sparking a wave of grassroots movements in support of veterans. One of the most memorable moments of the campaign came during a visit to a remote village in Nepal, where Kai met a group of Gurkha veterans. These men, who had served with unparalleled bravery in the British Army, had returned to their homeland with little recognition or support. Kai worked with local leaders to establish a program that honored their contributions and provided them with healthcare, housing, and education for their children. The gratitude of the Gurkha veterans and their families left an indelible mark on Kai. As she sat with them around a fire one evening, listening to their stories of courage and sacrifice, she felt a profound sense of purpose. The world is full of heroes we've yet to recognize, she thought. It's our duty to find them and ensure their stories are never forgotten. Back home, Kai's personal life began to evolve in unexpected ways. Though she had long been single, her dedication to her work left little time for relationships. But during one of her trips to a VRP center, she met Alex Reed, a former Air Force pilot who had become a counselor for veterans. Alex's calm demeanor and unwavering dedication to helping others struck a chord with Kai. Over time, their shared passion for service deepened into something more. Alex became a steadfast partner, not just in Kai's personal life, but in her mission as well. Together, they worked to expand the VRP's mental health programs, focusing on innovative therapies like art, music, and equine-assisted therapy. Their partnership became a symbol of hope and healing, inspiring others to find strength in connection and collaboration. As the years passed, Kai's influence grew to encompass more than veterans' issues. She became an advocate for broader social change, addressing poverty, inequality, and environmental sustainability. Her work earned her numerous accolades, including the Nobel Peace Prize, which she accepted with characteristic humility. In her acceptance speech, she said, "This honor is not mine alone. It belongs to every veteran who fought to reclaim their life, every volunteer who gave their time, and every community that chose hope over despair. Together, we are proving that a better world is possible." By the time Kai Trump reached her later years, her legacy was firmly established. The VRP had become a global institution, its principles adopted by governments and organizations around the world. Yet despite her many achievements, Kai remained as grounded as ever. She continued to visit VRP centers, mentor young leaders, and advocate for the causes she believed in. One evening, as she sat on the porch of her home with Alex, looking out at the stars, she reflected on the journey that had brought her there. "It all started with one moment," she said softly. "One choice to act when it would have been easier to stand by. That's all it takes, a moment, a choice, and the courage to follow through." Her words would later be quoted by leaders, activists, and ordinary people inspired by her example. For Kai Trump, the journey had never been about recognition or personal gain. It had always been about answering the call to serve, one moment, one choice, and one life at a time. Kai Trump's story continued to unfold in ways that even she couldn't have anticipated, proving that a life dedicated to service was one of continual growth, evolution, and unexpected opportunities. As the Veterans Reclamation Project (VRP) entered its second decade, the ripple effects of her work began to touch aspects of society far beyond her initial vision. One of the most profound expansions of the VRP was its role in addressing intergenerational trauma. Kai recognized that the struggles of veterans often extended beyond themselves, impacting their families and even their communities. This realization led to the creation of the Family Resilience Initiative, a program designed to support not only veterans but also their loved ones. Spouses, children, and even parents of veterans were provided with counseling, workshops, and community support networks to help them navigate the challenges of reintegration and healing. At a conference where Kai introduced the initiative, she spoke with characteristic empathy. "Healing isn't an individual journey," she said. "It's a collective one. When we support the families of our veterans, we create a foundation for lasting change." One of the early success stories of the Family Resilience Initiative was the Owens family. James Owens, a former Army sergeant, had struggled to reconnect with his wife and teenage daughter after returning from deployment. The family's participation in the program allowed them to attend joint therapy sessions, engage in creative arts workshops, and build communication skills through activities like team-based hiking and cooking classes. Over time, they rebuilt their bonds and found a sense of togetherness that had eluded them for years. For Kai, the Owens family's transformation reaffirmed her belief that supporting veterans meant addressing the full scope of their lives. Inspired by this success, she expanded the program to include mentorship opportunities where veterans' families could connect with others who had faced similar challenges. These mentorships fostered a sense of shared understanding and mutual encouragement, creating a growing network of resilience. Kai's work also began to intersect with technology, as she embraced the potential of virtual platforms to reach veterans in remote or underserved areas. Partnering with tech companies, she helped develop an app called Path Forward, which offered veterans access to mental health resources, job training modules, and peer support networks, all from their smartphones. The app was particularly transformative for those living in rural communities or unable to travel to VRP centers, ensuring they too could benefit from the project's resources. One of the most innovative features of the app was its integration of virtual reality (VR) technology. Veterans could participate in immersive experiences that simulated job interviews, workplace scenarios, or even therapeutic environments designed to reduce anxiety and build confidence. These advancements not only expanded the reach of the VRP, but also showcased how technology could be a powerful tool for social good. Even as she embraced cutting-edge solutions, Kai remained deeply connected to the human side of her work. She frequently attended graduation ceremonies for VRP trainees, where veterans proudly received certificates symbolizing their newfound skills and futures. At one such ceremony, she was approached by a young man named Amir, who had completed a welding program after years of homelessness. "I never thought I'd see this day," Amir said, his voice choked with emotion. "But you believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself?" Kai placed a hand on his shoulder and smiled. "You did this, Amir. You chose to fight for your future. I'm just honored to have walked with you." Moments like these reminded Kai why she had dedicated her life to this cause. Every story, every triumph, and even every challenge reaffirmed her belief in the power of compassion and the strength of the human spirit. For Kai Trump, the journey was never about achieving a final goal. It was about creating a world where every life, no matter how broken, could find its way back to hope. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on how Kai Trump might react to the veterans' collapse? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.